This is what I've been waiting for as far as vintage motocross goes. Ryan Villapoto's brand new old school vibe. Tells you all about Ryan Villapoto and Jake Weimer at the Boise Inter-Am. Now, Racer X magazine, of course, goes a little more toward a modern racer. You got some vintage guys in there too. We haven't had in the back. There are vintage guys that like it as well. But when the modern guys see that guys like Villapoto and Jake Weimer are getting interested in vintage motocross, you're going to see a whole different thing happening, I think, in vintage motocross. Once you get those guys out there tearing up the track, like on these 74 bikes, these twin shock air-cooled bikes, you're going to see a whole new thing. This will be the salvation, I think, of vintage motocross in the long run. You're gonna have a whole new bunch of guys. Hopefully more guys can run stuff like that too. Run a couple of more races where you can get out some recently retired guys and have them ride some of the old bikes. I heard Villapoto's got two YZ250s now, YZ250As. Don't forget, you got trivia tonight and random trivia. Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you, Jordan and Chelsea and Susie, for helping me put the show together. Thank you, the viewers at home who watch the show every week. Let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you more about what you're going to see on the show this evening. The starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro. For all your specialized tools, cables, and controls, visit them online at motionpro.com. In the Next Time Try This segment, I've got a great little tip on how to make a cable guide for your bike. You're going to love the video. In the Moto Showcase, a 1976 CCM 500 from the original owner, only one of 27 imported to America. Great little bike. Looking forward to bringing it to you. Here's the problem. We'll be talking about tires. We'll be talking about oil. We'll be talking about milling ahead in a YZ125. That's coming up. What's it worth? The 1974 CR125 that I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about. Where do you see the bike a little bit later on in the show? Expansion Chamber, Robert Oscar Pomeroy is back with another epic video. We're looking forward to bringing you that. Trivia returns tonight. Got it right here. Finding number 49, a finalist in the Indie Excellent Awards for books. Finding number 49 by Keith Geisner. It's a call-in contest. It's a trivia question. Somebody's going to win this book tonight. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to comment Motion Pro. Random share giveaway winner tonight is going to get this nice sticker pack, compliments of Vinco. Our YouTube channel is going great. You can see all the shows we've done, and we're coming up on close to 100 of them. You can see all the shows from Vintage Motocross Q&A and listen to all of our interviews from Vintage Motocross Radio. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get a little alert just like this. Tells you when we're live. You won't miss any of the action here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And how are the pros watching the show? How are the experts doing it? They're sitting back watching Vintage Motocross Q&A on their big screen TV, right through YouTube. You sit back, you watch it on your big screen TV, and you can comment right through your phone. We see it right here on the show. It's a great way to watch the show. On a big screen TV, comment through your phone. That's the best way to do it. We love seeing your bikes. We love using them here on the show, and your questions and your comment as well. So please keep those questions and pictures coming in of all your bikes. You can go right to my inbox at Vintage Motocross Q&A, or you can find me on Facebook and send me a private message. Either way, keep those questions coming in. Your comments are always welcome. And of course, your bikes in the Moto Showcase, those are always welcome as well. I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X Magazine, Golan Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Preston Petty Products, Northwest Mako CZ, and Full Circle Racing.
The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. Tonight, I want to talk to you about how to make a front brake cable guide. It's just a simple solution, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It's going to look like this when you're done. It's going to be really great how the cable stays aligned in your bike. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a spoke, just like this. Now, I would recommend you use a bicycle spoke. I'm using motorcycle spokes for this demonstration. They're a little on the thick side. A bicycle spoke would be better. Where you're going to begin is you're going to cut off the threaded end, and you're going to mark it 5 inches up, and you're going to cut off this end too. What you're going to have after you do that is a rod that looks just like this. Previously your spoke, it's going to look just like this though. The next thing you want to do is bend that into a horseshoe shape like this. There's a couple of ways to do that. You could put it around any object that's on your vise, maybe the handle, or you could take a bolt like this, attach it to your vise, clamp it down, and put it in there and bend it around it. The purpose of that is because you want a nice radius to go around there, so when your cable goes through there, you don't want it to pinch. The next thing you're going to do is put this piece in the vise, and I'm going to show you how to bend that. You want to have a couple of nice sharp edges on the top of the vise. You can do that with a soft jaw, or you can do what I did here and just cut 2 pieces of angle aluminum where the edges are nice and sharp. The important thing is that you keep it in there nice and straight. Clamp down on your vise gently with a hammer. You're going to tap down just like that. Take it out of the vise. And then you got the shape I showed you that was on the fork. Now you can cut these a little bit shorter to whatever dimension you like, depending on the clamp you have, or maybe you want them a little bit longer. Don't forget, you might want to file the ends. They might be a little sharp after you cut them. Well, that's our tip this week on the Next Time Try This segment. You could connect it right to your lower fork leg like that. Use a nice thin clamp. Don't use a hose clamp. It'll turn out looking like a plumbing project when you're done. Then, in the end, you have a cable guide just like that. Going to hold your cable in place, keep it out of your spokes, and protect the casing and everything else that goes along with that cable. The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going.
And Vinco this week has a great special for some OSA foot pegs, just $89.95. These are wider than stock in both directions. They're plated for corrosion protection. They have an aggressive tooth design on it as well. The bolts and nuts are included. Both left and right peg, of course, is included. And it's got the quality you would expect from Vinco. This is for all your OSAs, and it replaces the OEM peg. $89.95 from Vinco. Keep the ride going. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. We'll tell you a nice special from Preston Petty a little bit later on. But right now, I want to tell you about a great bike that was sent in to us by Brent Rogers. It's a 1976 TCM 500. And Brent sent us a nice little information package here to go along with this. He said his dad bought this bike brand new in Arrow, Pennsylvania in 1976. He had been injured on a YZ250B, but he just loved this big thumper, and he bought it anyway. Brent has all the original documentations that came with this bike, including the payoff check, all the information slips, and everything corresponding with this bike coming into the country. His dad let a couple of guys ride this bike, Tony Wynn being one of them, Ricky Jordan, and even Galen Mosier got a practice in on this bike at one point. And at some point after all that racing, Brent's dad went through some vicious divorce. And Brent had heard about it and that the bike was laying in a garbage can in pieces, in boxes on the curb. That very day, he drove down the street with his car and got all the parts in pieces, put them in his trunk, and took them all home. Now, it sat in his garage for almost 30 years until him and Jerry Kaczynski, legendary Triumph tuner, had actually refreshed that motor and put everything back together again the way you see it here in the picture. This is the 27th bike made in 1976. It's got the Banks big bottle forks on it. He also has a yellow fiberglass tank, which come on some models, but he's got the aluminum tank on it in these pictures. And he says there's a lot of other stories that go along with this bike as well. I love the show, Joe. I hope you'll feature my bike on it. We did, Brett, and I love the pictures of it too. And CCM was a real interesting bike too. And it came in a couple of different variations, or guys would kind of fine tune them to what they wanted, from fiberglass gas tanks to aluminum gas tanks. You can do different things with the shocks and with the forks as well. So this happens to be Brent's bike in the picture, not this one, although he does have a yellow tank on it. Here's another one in a different configuration with a BSA 500 engine, I believe, a nice aluminum tank with the white petty fenders, I think, are on there, and another one again with an aluminum tank. So real interesting history for the CCMs, and Brent's story is one of the most interesting ones I've ever heard. Brent Rogers, thanks for sending in that bike to us. Get me your address. I'll get you a real nice gift. Compliments of Preston Petty Products. Speaking of Preston Petty Products, they have a great little special going on this week. They've got these headlight extension fork mounts. This is the nicest way to mount your headlight on the front of your dual purpose or enduro bike. It's also a great way to actually put a number plate on the bike as well. These things are aluminum billet, and then they're black anodized. They come in sizes that will fit from 30 miller up to 42 millimeter forks, and they're just $39.95 a pair. If you buy two, just $75. Go check them out at PrestonPettyProducts.com. Thank you, Paul Stannard. And here's the problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. We've got some of your questions. Jordan, what do we have up first? Dale McCleary. Every tire manufacturer claims they are the best. How would you pick the best tire for your bike and your conditions? Dale, this is a very complicated question in many ways. It's like when someone says, what's the best oil? What oil should I use? Now, tires, of course, come generally in soft, intermediate, and hard pack. It isn't so much the rubber compound that changes so much, but it is the spacing of the knobs on the tire that makes all the difference. Now, on your soft terrain, you're going to have the ability to scoop up a little more dirt in a soft terrain environment, sort of like a paddle tire, okay? The intermediate tire is more of a jack of all trades. Now, I'll be honest with you. I ran intermediate tires when I raced vintage motocross for years. Why? Because maybe one week you run a hard pack track. The next week you might have been, back then I was racing a lot on the East Coast. You might have been at Southwick for a race. And then you might have been somewhere in New York State where there was loam. I wasn't one of those guys who went out and had different tires for every race that I went to. But you need to look at the track that you're going to be riding on the most and then make that decision. Now, I don't have a tire sponsor for the show, and I ran Dunlops a lot. I would recommend you go over to Dunlop and see what types of tires and what types of compounds they have that might suit you. But depending on the track you race on, or if it changes, you may want to run different tires. Yes, every manufacturer says their tires are the best. We've all been there. You don't really know until you try them out. I think Dunlop is a name you could really trust. Something else I want to bring to your attention is how much air pressure you're running in those tires. Think about the air pressure, do a little experimenting on that. I used to run 13 in the front, 13 in the back. You could drop that down a bit. Some guys drop it down as low as 9 if the track is really muddy. Tire squats out a little bit and you're going to get a lot more traction. So look into a Dunlop tire, experiment a little bit with air pressure. And another thing you might want to consider is looking at what the pros use on different tracks throughout the country at this time. If you could get a little line on that, on who's running what tire, who's running up front, look who's running up front at some of these races, whether it's Cooper Webb or whether it's Eli Tomac, see what kind of tire they're using. Take a cue from them. I don't think that's a bad way to look at either. But I want to thank you for the question, Dale. I hope I shed some light on it a little bit. Chuck Mackey, how much would you mill a head For a bit more punch in a 1974 YZ125, I was told to go about 25 thousandths. 20 to 25 thousandths is something that you can do. No question about it. It isn't too much. I would stay a little more toward 20 thousandths, but if you want to go 25 thousandths, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Now, I talked to two engine builders that I really, really trust, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And there's a picture of some Honda heads that were milled. Now, both guys, Ted Boyko and Glenn Lewis from Precision Plus in New York State, both said to me 20 to 25 thousandths would be adequate. Teddy Boyko said something else, and he suggested that you might want to take 20 to 25 thousandths off the base of the cylinder. He said him and Donnie Emler were doing this way, way back in the day, and it's lowering the intake, it's lowering the exhaust, and of course you're getting more compression because you're taking the same 20 to 25 thousandths off the bottom of that cylinder as you would on the head. So those are the recommendations. However, don't forget, if you do go with milling 20 to 25 thousandths off the cylinder, if you don't like it for any reason, you're looking at maybe running two base gaskets at that point, or if you want to replace the cylinder as a whole, that's going to cost you a whole lot more money than just replacing the head. If you're going to go with a higher compression, also remember, jetting might change and you might have to go to race fuel if you're not running race fuel now. But 20 to 25 thousandths is not a problem. You could do that on the head. You could do it on the cylinder as well if you're so inclined. 20 to 25 thousandths, not a problem. Mark Variester, one of our sponsors from Full Circle Racing Limited, had a question for me this week. How do you prevent over-oiling an air filter? How much is enough? How much is too much? Well, I'll say this about that. Number one, I like to use oil out of a bottle, and I like to use it with a Ziploc bag. Put on some nitrate gloves. You put that filter in the bag, and I dump some oil in there inside the filter, not on the outside so much. I dump it in there, zip up the bag, and then I squeeze the bag, and I work that oil through that filter until it comes out, and I see it on the other side. If I don't see it, then I add a little to the outside, keep squeezing it, keep moving it around in the bag. Do not wring out the cylinder. Just squeeze it in the bag until you see it all in there. You have the gloves on for a purpose. Open up the bag, take your filter out, you can examine it, put it on your bike without getting your hands all filthy and oily, and then you can either save the bag and throw away the gloves. I'm not really a fan of aerosol oils when it comes to oil filters. You can't really, I'm just not comfortable with it. I like doing it this way to where I can really, really see the oil come out through the filter. You don't want to over oil it, and this is a good way to prevent that because you're only going to start kneading it through that filter as you see it. You know it's time to stop. Got it, Mark Variester? I think you do. Thanks for the question, Mark, and thanks for all you do for Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Hello, this is Donnie Hansen. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Hi, Jeff here, introducing you to Motion Pro's magnetic pickup tool today. Now, we've all had that bad experience where we drop a loose part or fastener into a hard to reach place like a skid plate or belly pan. Well, this is the right tool for the job that will retrieve that stubborn part and get you back to working on your ride. As for the features of the magnetic pickup tool, first you have this billet aluminum handle. There's a low profile magnetic tip that's extremely strong and in fact will even pick up a Motion Pro T handle. This flexible shaft can get into hard to reach places and with its protective coating won't damage the finish on your motorcycle. The magnetic pickup tool is affordably priced at $14.99 and is available from your favorite power sports dealer nationwide. So avoid future frustration and pick one up for yourself today.
Another great tool from Motion Pro. Did I mention Mark Variester? Did I say Sunrise Vapor Blasting? I hope I did. Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Mark Variester. I had that last question about oil filters. What's it worth? What's it worth tonight? This is a segment of the show where I tell you a little bit about a bike that recently sold on eBay, and you can put in the comments what you think this bike sold for. Now, I am going to tell you that this bike sold in Massachusetts on April 16th, 2021. I'm going to read to you the description, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on this bike. In the description, it says that I am downsizing and moving, therefore I'm selling off some of my collections. CR125 was restored over 10 years ago, and it was placed in a museum. This is where I purchased it from, and the bike was on display inside my office in a building for the last 10 years. I never ran the bike. It went from one showroom to the next. It's got new tires, XL rims. The engine number is HRC 125. And the frame number is 201131. I don't know the reason why the engine says HRC, as that didn't change until the 1980s. This would be a cool story behind that. I will provide a bill of sale. Well, I'm going to tell you about this bike, okay? Number one, take a look at this picture. It says it's restored, and it was in a showroom, and it was in a museum, and it was in his office. The Kickstarter is wrong. The shade of green is wrong on the number plate background. The pipe is beat up. Look at the header pipe there. You can see how it suffered from heat, and no attempt was made to make it look correct. The Kickstarter is wrong. It's got a Mikuni carburetor on it. Wires are hanging down there. You might not be able to see in the whole picture, but it certainly isn't what I would consider a museum piece or a restored bike. It's got XL rims. Okay, fine. It's got the incorrect shocks on it as well. It's got, well, the hardware was never done on it, and it's got aftermarket side panels. And, well, it's just not what I would consider a showroom, museum, or a restored bike. But here it was, and it was on eBay, and it sold for how much? $3,000? $5,000. Some poor soul paid $6,552 for this bike. Look at that seat foam. There are a lot of things that are incorrect about it. It was nowhere near worth $6,552 to be considered a restoration. I would say the entire bike would have to come apart. A lot would have to be done. I think the bike was overpriced by $2,500, but it sold for $6,552, and I am willing to bet nobody even came close to that number. But somebody thought that's what it was worth. That segment, of course, is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page on Facebook. Over 6 years going now, over 16,000 members. If you have a bike that you want to know what it's worth, become a member of the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Post some pictures of your bike there, and you can do the same thing if you're looking to buy a bike and you want to be sure of the value of it. Nothing there is for sale. There are no parts for sale there. They don't identify parts. All they do there is discuss the value of bikes. And there's a real great group of guys. There's a lot of pictures of bikes that have recently sold from eBay, from auctions, from private sales. It's a great place to get some knowledge on the value of your bike. The Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Have you ever heard of this segment? Is sponsored by Sunrise Vapor Blasting, our friend Mark Ferriester. Have you ever heard of a Gazzoni? Founded by Aldo Gazzoni in 1908 to 1978, he was a mechanic and Milan motorcycle dealer. Gazzoni began building bikes in 1935 with a British-built Calthorpe-powered 500cc motorcycle that didn't find much public support in Italy. After World War II, Gazzoni joined forces with the Fabbrica Bolognese Motori. And this was a joint venture between some names I think you'll be familiar with, Minarelli and Marini. In 1955 and 1956, the Gazzoni 50cc Torpedo, it was a road racer. It set 30 world speed records on the Monza circuit. They continued to build 50cc street bikes and mopeds while looking for a golden fleece in sales. It wasn't until 1960, using an engine from a go-kart, that Gazzoni would have his first truly successful machine. In 67, the Motocross was the first dirt bike that rolled down the assembly line in Italy, and it was the first 50cc bike in Italy that actually had a rotary valve. The Motocross also had a reverse cylinder and an exhaust pipe that went out the back of the bike and out the front. The Motocross was a hit with the young people in Italy, and it convinced Gazzoni to build a 125cc and a 150cc bike as well in 1968. Building small displacement bike set a whole generation abroad in the dirt bike world in Italy. And in 71, the Motocross became a special racing model. It got a new chassis, which was subsequently using a 100cc engine and a 125cc engine. It was called the RM72. Sadly, in 1976, the company folded, and shortly after that, Gazzoni died in 1978 at age 60. Very, very interesting history from a bike that we don't hear a whole lot about, the Gazzoni. 30 speed records at Monza. Next time somebody asks you if you ever heard of a Gazzoni, tell me you heard about it on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Mark Ferriester, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. If you've got something you need cleaned and you want it cleaned in detail and not change the profile of the metal, you want to check out Mark Ferriester and Sunrise Vapor Blasting. You send him whatever you got, whether it's metal, steel, pot metal, if it's for a boat, a car, or a motorcycle, whatever it may be, Mark's going to put it in that tank, and he's going to get that thing as clean as possible, never change the profile of the metal. And if there are any fixtures on there that are made of copper or brass or anything at all that can't be removed, they're going to come out just as clean as the rest of the piece. I've got a whole box of parts that I just sent over to Mark Ferriester a few days ago. I'm going to get them back next week, and I'm going to feature them here on the show. In the meantime, you should go over and check out Sunrise Vapor Blasting on Facebook. Get your parts over to Mark Ferriester. They're never going to be cleaner than when he gets done with them. Trivia. It happens once a month on the first Wednesday, and tonight we will be giving away that great book that we've been giving away, Finding Number 49, fantastic book by Keith Geisner. The first person to answer the call correctly will not win the bike, they will win the book, Finding Number 49. Don't forget, this is a call-in contest. There are operators standing by. I'm going to give you the question right now. Jordan, I want to know who said this. Who said this? And what track was he talking about? I am doomed here. Who said that? What track was he talking about? I am doomed here. Call in to 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. And tell us who said the words, I am doomed here. And what track was he talking about? Susie standing by. We'll have the answer or the winner a little bit later on, live in the show. Oh, expansion chamber. I got another great videotaping from Robert Oscar Pomeroy, the expansion chamber. And I'm going to pop it into the old VCR right now. Let's take a look at what Robert Oscar Pomeroy has to say.
Hello everyone, my name is Oscar, and I'd like to talk to you about the simplest, most cost-effective way to improve handling and stability on your vintage or post-vintage motorcycle. What we have here are two mini bikes with two completely different steering bearing assemblies, and I want to show you the difference. And I understand they're mini bikes, but this will apply to your big wheel racer as well. Starting with the XR75, with the original ball and race system, very smooth action, but doesn't matter how much you try to tension down the front end, you still end up with this very loose, free-feeling front end. And this, when you ride this type of setup, you need so much more control. You can't even you try to pull a tear-up off, any little bumps, whatever it is, you're always have full focus trying to maintain that front end, and any wiggle, and this front end will go from side to side. On the Yamaha 80, I upgraded to a double tapered roller system where I can pre-tension the bearing to whatever I like to my settings, and I just show you the difference. This button here, it doesn't matter where I turn the steering, it kind of stays right there. Very little to move it, but I don't have to fight this. I can take one hand off, take a tear off. I don't have to worry about the small bumps. The bike can wiggle from side to side. The handlebar stays stable. Much more stable and fluid ride on this type of tension system. Now that I've demonstrated the visual difference on the mini bikes of a loose front end and a stable front end, let's answer the question: why can't we just tension my current, 72 DT or 74 Elsinore? And because once you take the steering head apart, you're going to find out you're going to have a system that looks like this, which is a race and loose ball bearing system. And there's no taper, no way to possibly load that and increase that. You can only create a dent. Maybe you can throw some dirt in there, but basically you're just running a loose front end, and there's just no way to tension that setup. Another example, this is a Can-Am. They use a inserted cup. They have an insert that goes in here. They use a needle bearing, and then they have a thrust bearing, this really tiny thrust bearing. And again, it doesn't matter how much you go to tighten these, you just can't create that tension you need on your steering. So what is our solution? Okay, here's one solution that I've come up with. There's a company called All Balls Racing, and they sell many different components for modern vintage bikes. They sell a steering stem conversion kit. Okay, what they'll send you for your bike, you go to the site, you use the pull down menu, you type in the year, make, and model of your bike, and they'll tell you what steering stem conversion kit to buy. Now these, I've looked at the prices on these. It's about $45 or less. And what you get is a lower tapered roller bearing and seat, and a upper tapered roller bearing and race for the upper side. And in my experience, the Yamaha that I did and the Hondas that I've done, it was a straight conversion. I basically punched out the old race, dropped in the new race, and installed the taper, assembled it, and tensioned it to get that nice firm feel, and I was off to the races. Now my Suzuki floaters, my 81 to 83 type bikes, when I went to install it, I could not tension it. And what I ended up doing here, I had to take and machine down this diameter for the bearing another 1/4 inch. So when I put the bearing on, I could continue to tension it to get that nice secure front end. And then with room, using this, I could tension that and secure that front end. So not all of them are plug and play, but for the majority of the ones I've tested, the All Balls Racing Kit is a direct conversion. Again, for $45 or less, I think it's the single most effective way to improve handling on your motorcycle. Far surpasses all the big dollar suspension moves you're going to make. I'm not saying that those aren't worth it, but this is a great starting point for your vintage racer. Anyways, for $45, I think it's a great modern solution to an old age problem. Thank you.
Great video from Robert Oscar Pomeroy. Jordan, I have 2 winners, Jordan. First of all, what's up next on the show? Let me see what's happening here first. Okay, let's go over this. Full Circle Racing. And then we're going to get to the winner of the trivia contest. I got him on the phone standing by, and the random share giveaway winner too. But right now, I want to talk to you about Full Circle Racing. Tom McAllister doing a great job up there. Still has a special going on for powder coating hubs. They'll clean them, disassemble them, blast them, mass them, and powder coat them for just $50 a hub. $10 more if you want the brake plate done as well. That's in matte black and flat black, or gloss black, I'm sorry, and matte black. For just $20 more a hub, they'll make them any color you want. So get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. It's a great way to start if you're looking to rebuild a set of wheels. Bend up your hubs, Tom will take it from there. Thanks, Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. Now, on the phone, I have our trivia contest winner. This is Joe Abate. You're live on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Tonight's trivia winner, or question rather, was, first of all, who am I speaking with?
Pete Hansen.
Pete Hansen. Pete, where are you from, Pete?
Middletown, New York. Grew up with you in New Jersey and Bergen County when you lived in Paramus.
Yeah. Middletown, New York, home of the Jammer, Jimmy Weiner. Hey, Pete.
You bet.
Okay, now, the question was, I wanted you to give me the name of the guy who said it and the track he was talking about. Who said the words, "I am doomed here"? And what was he talking about?
Roger DeCoster and his completely bad luck at Carlsbad.
That's true. Roger DeCoster. You know, the Carlsbad track didn't open until 1973, and he raced there then. I think his last year there was 1980. But through those years, Roger was a 5-time world champion. I think he had a couple under his belt before Carlsbad even opened. But unfortunately, the man never did put it all together at Carlsbad. Pete Hansen, I'm going to put Susie back on the phone, and she's going to get your address, and we're going to get you a copy of Finding Number 49. Thanks for playing along and watching the show, Peter.
Thank you, Joe. Be well.
Thank you, brother. Okay. If I knew how to turn off Susie's phone, that'd be great. Anyway, I might as well do the random share giveaway winner too at this point. It is Mike Cravens. Mike Cravens, if you're still watching the show, inbox me, get me your address, and I'll get you this sticker pack, compliments of Vinco. That's Mike Craven. You are tonight's random share giveaway winner. Unbelievable. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
We usually do the random share giveaway winner after that commercial. I apologize, but once again, it is Mike Cravens. Mike Cravens, you are the random share giveaway winner. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X, the finest motocross publication on your newsstand now and also online. Be sure to see our ad in the back of this month's edition of Racer X. There's also a great story in there on Brian Villapoto at the Boise NRM. You're not going to want to miss it. This Week in Motocross History, what do we got first? 1977, Lackey first on the fourth American title. Hopeful Brad Lackey finally broke through a win to win his first 500cc Grand Prix of his career in Britain. Lackey, who hailed from Northern California, went 4-1 on his works Honda that day. That was his maiden win after 4.5 years on the GP circuit. Garrett Walsink took a second place that day for Suzuki with a 5-2 score. But Brad, taking it to England on the 4th of July to win his first GP. In 1989, Parker goes 4 out of 7. Over in Europe, U.S. sensation Trampus Parker won another 125cc Grand Prix in what was becoming the story of the summer. Parker was virtually unknown anywhere before his season, and he captured his 4th win overall out of 7 races. This time it was in Czechoslovakia. Parker won both motos on his Ferrioli KTM, and Bobby Moore, also an American rider, took a second that day, and a 15-year-old kid took third. That 15-year-old kid was Stefan Everts in 1989. In 1992, Jeff Emig over the Rock. In the career first, Team Yamaha's Jeff Emig won the 1992 Redbud AMA 125 National. It was the beginning of what would be a champion-winning year for Emig on the 125 season, as well as a start to a great relationship with his Redbud fans. The win, and later the title, would come at the expense of another Redbud favorite, Mike LaRocco, who finished second that day, and third place went to Suzuki-mounted Ezra Lusk. But that's what happened in 1977, 89, and 92 in motocross history. We got some announcements tonight. The announcements, of course, are sponsored by Going Industries. Jordan, what do we have first? Vintage Motocross Radio is going great. We'll be back live on the air this Sunday at 11 a.m. Don't forget, you don't just have to listen on Facebook or on YouTube. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, CastBox, and 9 other podcast channels. You can listen anywhere, anytime. That's Vintage Motocross Radio. And as I just mentioned, we will be back this Sunday, July 11th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and my guest will be Nancy Payne. If you're not familiar with Nancy, she was the 1974 Women's National Powder Puff Champion, the first national champion actually for women. She raced in Europe. She rode a Mako. She rode a lot of different bikes, and she's got some great stories that she's going to be sharing with us this Sunday at 11 a.m. on Vintage Motocross Radio. Nancy Payne. Got a special guest coming up on Thursday, the 15th at 6 o'clock at night. It will be Todd Huffman. Todd Huffman, you may recognize the name from movies like One Chance to Win and, of course, all the Motocross files. Todd will be my guest. We'll be talking about the remastered edition of On Any Sunday, how it's going to be re-released this summer, in fact, sometime in August. So we'll be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about all the hard work and effort he has put in to the Carlsbad Monument. We'll also talk about how you can participate in the Carlsbad Monument and get your name put there indefinitely on a brick. We'll tell you all about it. It's really a great thing, how they're raising money and all the stuff that Todd has done to make this Carlsbad Monument possible. Next Thursday, July 15th, 6 o'clock, Vintage Motocross Radio. Here's an announcement. Tomorrow is Brad Lackey's 67th birthday. Of course, Brad, America's first 500cc national champion, celebrates a birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, champ. It's never too early to get ready for another one of Scott Burnworth's epic races. It's coming up on October 16th, 2021, the SoCal Vintage Fall Classic. It's the second running of the Marty Smith Memorial Cup. Scott and Debbie Burnworth do a great job. They get a lot of people who get behind this race, give away a lot of free swag. There's a class for just about everybody. It's at Glen Helen. Don't miss it. Plan ahead. October 16th, 2021. Pacific Northwest Vintage Riders have a race coming up this weekend. That's July 11th, Pacific Raceways in Kent, Washington. Another event I'm really looking forward to. I might even be there out in October. It's in South Jersey. The Field of Dreams is putting on a great event. It's for 3 days, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. They're teaming up with American Classic Racing and ARMA. These are really, really great clubs. There's going to be camping. There's going to be a bike show. There's a practice on Friday. Saturday, there's going to be some races. On Sunday morning, there's a GP-style motocross followed by an open practice all Sunday afternoon. You want to make plans to get down there to the Field of Dreams. That's October 15th, 16th, and 17th. And as I mentioned, that segment is sponsored by Golden Products. And Golden Products makes a special filter like nobody else makes. It's right here. It comes in some really, really popular colors, whether it's for Yamahas, KTMs, or Hondas, or silver if you prefer. It's made of billet aluminum. And this filter can be cleaned indefinitely. It's got a little screen inside there. You can pop that thing right out. It will filter down anything up to 10 microns. That is not even something that you can see with your eyes. The other thing is, Golden is looking for distributors for this filter. And believe me, these things are selling. Anybody that's representing this line of Golden products right now is doing real, real well with it. You should get a hold of them at goldenpro@yahoo.com, and you can become a distributor for this great filter available from Golden Products. Elon Golden, thank you for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. The Finish Line, Northwest Mako CZ, sponsors this segment of the show, and this week they've got a great tool. I've got two of them right behind me on the pegboard. They got a clutch basket holder and a clutch tool. The clutch tool, it's so simple how it works, but it really is the only way you can depress the pressure plate of a CZ to get the clips out, to get the clutch springs out. You're never doing it without this. If you own a CZ, you need these two tools right here. For $40, it's the best $40 you're ever going to spend. Get a hold of Alan Brown at Northwest Mako CZ. Get yourself those tools right there, because you can't work on the clutch of a CZ without those two tools right there. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available. They're in gray and white. They come with the logo across the front, my signature across the back. They're just $19.99. The hoodies are a little bit more. So follow the link in the show description and get yourself a t-shirt from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Vintage Motocross sponsorship opportunities are still available. You've been watching the show. It's going on 2 years right now, okay? And look at the sponsors that we have. Motion Pro, Vinco, Full Circle Racing, Northwest Mako CZ, Preston Petty Products. I think Vinco has been on the longest. It's going on 2 years. And the same for Preston Petty Products. There's a reason why those guys keep coming back month after month, because they're seeing results. We're reaching over 20,000 people a week just on Facebook. We're reaching more on YouTube. We're reaching more through the radio show on Sunday. If you've got a business that you're looking to get the word out there on, just like Sunrise Vapor Blasting has, or Northwest Mako CZ, get a hold of me. We'll put a budget together that fits you, what you need to spend, what you need to get the word out there to the people in the market for your vintage motocross products, tools, or whatever service you perform. Get a hold of me. I'll get you a sponsorship proposal package. That is it for tonight's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank you all for joining. Congratulations to who do we have win here? Congratulations to Mike Cravens. Mike Cravens, he was the random share giveaway winner. Pete Hansen from New York was the winner of the book, Finding Number 49. Thank you, Keith Geisner, for so generously giving those books to us over the years. And I want to thank you. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Don't forget to tell your friends to go on YouTube and share it there and subscribe. I'll be back on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock with Nancy Payne on Vintage Motocross Radio. Have a good night. Thanks for joining me. Gino! I got a new dog, too, but I don't think he's going to come in. Gino! Good night, everybody. Gino! Come on, Gino! Come on! Come on, Gino! Come on, boy! Oh, okay, there's Gino. And I've got Rocco, too. Don't be a camera guy, Gino. Hey, I got the boy.